But gentlemen, when it comes to the roster builder, what are your thoughts at the moment? Are you thinking, as we did on the HawksZone rundown, I think we go the staples of the roster and then backfill from there again?
Yeah,
sure,
I agree with that.
Cool. So again, the German Seahawkers website, the guys who have put the effort into building this is fantastic. It will be updated very soon, but it's a great tool. Before the roster cuts come in, get yourself on there, see what happens. Translate into English. They've actually got an option for English or German. So we'll start. So we'll start with the offense. Quarterbacks, gentlemen, I will click buttons. I will let you guys decide, and I will feed in if needs be. So PJ Walker to start with. He's starting. No,
I wish. No. Practice. I don't even think PJ Walker's on the practice squad. To be brutally honest with you, I think they'll pick up somebody else at some point in the next couple of days. A couple names that I can think of. One being if Jake Hayner doesn't make it in New Orleans, he's got familiarity with Ryan Grubb and the system. Played for him at Fresno State. I could see him being someone that they potentially look at bringing in. I just don't think Walker gives you any value on the practice squad. Yes, he's played, but he hasn't when he has started in games. It's really, if you look at the games, they've been super close and basically banking on his defense to bail him out of some shitty situations. So I'm not a fan. Watching him last night even didn't instill any more confidence in me. So yeah, we know it's Gino and Sam going forward.
Agreed.
There you go. Wide receivers. So I think the wide receiver, running back, tight end conversation will be one of the biggest ones in this offensive unit. I think we can all agree the starting three of DK, Tyler, JSM.
I'd say four include Bobo.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was going to say. I think he's a lock for four. Yeah.
Which then leaves us with Ty Scott, Chenault, Eskridge, Young, White, Winston, Williams, Hayden Hatton, who has become the invisible man. So
I think Chenault makes it for sure. I think he's earned himself a spot.
Agree. Which then leaves us with are we taking 5 or 6 wide receivers here? And if we're taking 6, who do we take? Or do we leave this and come back to it?
So I think we have to select D. Williams here because I think he's making this roster, but I don't think he's making it as a wide receiver. But we can't select him in the cornerback room. So I think that. Do you agree, Bryce? Do you think that we have to select him here?
For the receiver group here, we're going to have 7 because, like you said, D. Williams should be under the cornerback group, and I think they're taking 6 receivers. And the reason I say that is I don't know if you guys heard Mike McDonald talk about Derek Young in his postgame.
He loves him.
He loves Derek Young, what he brings and everything. I think Derek Young makes this, and then you put D. Williams in as a corner that we just can't put in the corner slot because I think he's going to be back there with Chenault as the main 2 kick returners.
So we'll put Young in there. We'll keep a spot open for Williams. Running back. So we all know it's going to be Ken Walker, Charbonnet. I think the question is, do we carry 4 or 3 and hope to stash McIntosh or Helani? I don't think Kobe Lewis has shown enough in preseason to garner himself a roster spot. So I'd like to say thank you very much as well for the serendipitous 53 people watching on YouTube at the moment as we're doing our 53-man roster cuts. Personally, I think it's McIntosh's.
I think it's both, and I say that just because statistically we haven't carried less than 4 running backs on a roster for 7 years. I know it's a different coaching staff, so if there's ever going to be a change to that, it's going to be, with a different coaching staff. But I can't see us changing from 4 to 3 when we've got 4 such talented running backs. I think we carry 4, genuinely.
I say we go with 3 and see how the offensive line plays out.
Yeah.
I am kind of with you, but if we're going with 3,
Kenny
Who
Mack.
is the 3?
yes.
It's Kenny Mack. I love Helani and what he brings, but if watching in that game, Kenny Mack got the first reps with the starting group, which to me was a real indicative sign that he's probably the third guy because it wasn't George Helani out there with Gino. And you look at his 1 carry. That's the one thing that everyone knocked Kenny Mack for in the combine was his slow 40. And you watch his run there. He actually pulled away and then was able to provide a stiff arm, or as Michael Bennett said on the podcast, a stiffy. He got stiffied. So I think Kenny
Best
Mack
bit of commentary ever, because I think every British person went, "A what?" And that's probably the same universally.
If I was Fox, I'd be calling Michael Bennett right now to have him do what Tony Saragusa used to do for their show, for their podcast or their broadcast, where he was down on the field. Michael Bennett's just a national treasure. Honestly, he is. Awesome. But yeah, I just look at Kenny McIntosh. I think he gives you something that the other 2 above him don't. In his ability to be, I think he might be the best pass catcher out of the backfield out of the 3. And I think that's something Ryan Grubb wants in his offense, is to have a pure receiving third down back if needed, depending on the situation. And I look at, they wear the same number. I think Kenny McIntosh is an upgrade over what Travis Homer used to do that was so well for us. Like, he actually is a receiving third down back. And I think that's what gives him the edge, is he can take a run like that and hit a hole and go for 56 yards, where I don't know if George Helani can.
And talking about, sorry, Josh, you go, mate.
I was going to say, I think me and Mitch said this, was it last week or the week before with Helani? When you look at the pedigree, if you try and stash McIntosh on your practice squad, he's getting picked up. He's got the Georgia pedigree. If you stash Helani on there, you've got more chance of him staying on the practice squad because of him being from Boise State. Whereas, yeah, I think that's the right selection. I think McIntosh, I was high on him come out of the draft. I was shocked by how low he fell after his college production and sort of the plays he made, but it was all down to his 40 time. Helani, obviously UDFA. I think he could be stashed on the practice squad, and we hope and pray to whatever deity you want to pray to, he will stay there.
Kenny Mack's giving you special teams, checks as well.
Yeah.
Receiving and gunning. I think he's a serious option for special teams.
And it's now also 3 running backs we've got that can play as an extra receiver, because the
Chenault as well can double up as running back 4 with some looks. So
yeah. There we go. Right. So should we move on to tight end?
I think so.
So I think it's obviously Noah Fant, tight end 1.
Yep.
No argument there. Pharaoh Brown, tight end 2. Okay.
I think he's going to be back. If you've seen his videos, he's already moving around. I think he's going to be back for week 1. And then I think, honestly, the 2 other ones are Barner and Russell. They're not going to risk Barner going to practice squad because they'll lose him. Yeah. He's the youngest in his position that came out this year. And as the preseason's gone on, he's started to show a little bit more. And I think he's got a lot of good developmental traits, where I think he's more of a mix of a Colby Parkinson and with Will Dissly type. You kind of get a 2-for-1 in that situation. He can catch and move out of the back or out of the tight end spot, as well as stay in and block. So I think next year he will be your tight end 2, because I don't see Pharaoh Brown being on the roster next year.
Pharaoh Brown's on a 1-year contract, isn't he?
Yep.
So are we saying we're going to take 4 tight ends?
Correct.
So, Mitch, do you agree?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think as a blueprint, you've got a backup there for Noah Fant, and you've got a backup there for Pharaoh Brown. Mm-hmm. You've got a 1-2. You've got a 1-2 for for those 2 tight end types. I like that.
Yeah. So Tyler Mabry renews his lease on his apartment above the VMAC as a practice squad player for another year. That's 65 years.
I don't think he makes the practice squad.
Oh,
yeah. You think Westover, and I think Westover.
I think Westover makes it instead, because he gives you more versatility than Tyler Mabry. You've got another blocking type with AJ Barner already on your roster. If Pharaoh Brown is out for any significant amount of time, you don't have another Brady Russell type that gives you those unique abilities in your offense, Jack Westover does give you that.
Just on the subject of practice squads, I saw a thing today. I don't know. I think it might have been the same last year, but practice squad is 16 players with 4 that you can protect from being sniped each week. You can declare 4 unsnipeable prospects out of 16 each week. But I think there is a limit on how many times you can protect the same player on the practice squad. I don't know if that's correct. It's definitely 16 with 4 that you can designate as unavailable for signing off your practice squad, which is a new concept to me. I've never thought about that. But this year, with some of the players going on our practice squad, potentially that could be huge.
That's a very good question. I will research whilst you two discuss the O-line. Sure. Although if we're going to talk O-line, I think we kind of know the starting O-line. If we're looking at this, I think I'll go from top left all the way down. Anthony Bradford in.
Yep.
Ilm Manning, no. Jalen Sundell, no. Connor Williams,
yes.
in.
Jalen Sundell's on the bubble for me, by the way.
I was going to say he's on the bubble for me too.
If Abe Lucas starts on the pup, I think Jalen Sundell gets carried onto the roster as a tackle that has played center for us. I think those are 2 question mark positions because our starting center is coming off an injury and our starting tackle is coming off an injury. Having a guy that can cover both on the bubble is intriguing.
And the other intriguing thing for me about Sundell is if you look at his RAS score, it almost is identical to Connor Williams. And so for me, he actually has played very well. He's a 3-year starter at center and played his last year as a tackle and still got all conference as a tackle. I don't want to risk losing that guy. So I think there's a chance that Jalen Sundell actually makes this, like Mitch said, the 53-man roster.
Okay. Well, we'll leave him on the bubble.
Cross, yes.
Right. So Cross.
Well, you don't think we can stash Cross on the practice squad?
We could try.
As we're live, I'll be back in 2 secs. I've just heard my daughter, so you two can discuss this and let me know when I come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So Laken Tomlinson, we both know is going to be the starting left guard at least to start this season. Christopher Haynes makes it. Olu makes it because he's really, if Connor Williams can't go, will be the starting center game 1. Stone Forsythe, what are your thoughts?
I kind of want this to be the moment where he doesn't make it, just because we flushed this offensive line group with so much talent. I see higher upside on a lot of these guys than I do on Forsythe.
Agreed.
But from a readiness standpoint, if we need to rely on someone immediately, he's kind of the guy. If you look at this year as a transitional year where we could have a 7-10 or an 8-9 season because we're in transition. If that's the case, surely you choose the upside of a high ceiling over a known entity.
Agreed. Yeah, because when I look at this, I wonder if Stone Forsythe could sneak through to the practice squad. I don't know if he's put enough on tape to be picked up and be one of your veteran stashes on the practice squad where you can call him up on game day.
I mean, at the end of the day, if we put Stone Forsythe on the practice squad and someone picked him up and he played in the NFL, I'm happy for him.
Yep.
You could look at it and say he was given a huge amount of opportunity in his 4 years. It's not like he's been a backup for 4 years and hasn't played at all. He's played extensive snaps during a lot of injury-ridden seasons, and hasn't ever really made noticeable strides. So if we put him on the practice squad and he goes somewhere, good for him. Next man up.
Well, and the thing for me is the way I would see it is how you have those elevation periods for your veterans. I think it's 3 elevations you can use without them, and then they revert. If Abe Lucas goes on PUP for the first 4 weeks and Stone Forsythe's on your practice squad, you could elevate him those first 3 weeks. And that saves you that gap. But then you're not putting a, Jarrell or Greenfield, who I actually really like. I think Greenfield's actually played surprisingly well in the preseason, especially at left tackle. So I would rather feel more comfortable with him potentially making this over a Stone Forsythe. Okay, so Josh, do you need to be filled in here? Because me and Mitch just
sorry, it was a false alarm. She was murmuring, and I had to give her a quick cuddle. Family first all the time.
Of course.
So apologies to anyone watching, but my daughter always comes first. So
Tomlinson makes it. We've already discussed that.
Yep.
Christian Haynes. Olu, because if Connor Williams can't go, he is your starting center. And this is where we had just gotten to, was both me and Mitch are not sold that Stone Forsythe makes this roster.
He's not. In my opinion, I don't think I had such high hopes from him coming out of Miami that I thought he could be a fantastic sort of backup swing tackle, but he only shows mediocre play at right tackle. At left tackle, he gets exposed all the time. And it's sometimes embarrassing. Last week against
Tennessee, got run over by the linebacker and put on.
He got run over into McIntosh, tripped over McIntosh's feet, and he was luckily he managed to recover the fumble. But I think it's got to a point now where there's no loyalty with his coaching staff, where they don't need him to be there because they've drafted him. I think he's going to be a casualty here. I personally think you're going to be looking at George Fant. Obviously, he's going to make it. I think you're also. I don't think McClendon Curtis is in.
So Tara LeMayer.
I think LeMayer and Jarrell.
Yes,
are going to be the two there, because that's guard tackle flexibility. That is tackle flexibility, where I think they'll make him a swing tackle, and he's shown athletically he can do it.
And this was the scenario me and Mitch had talked about with Forsythe, is if you're able to get him through the practice squad, you have the 3 elevations, I believe it is, that you can elevate, and then he reverts back. You just elevate him on game day. Well, for those first 4 weeks, if Abe Lucas is on POP, you can elevate Stone Forsythe. And then after that point, he can't be elevated and reverted again. So you can either decide at that point what you're going to do with him, if you're going to protect him, if he's going to be one of your protected players, or you just leave him exposed to be signed by a team somewhere at some point.
I mean, we can always re-sign him to the practice squad then, and if someone else comes in before us, because we'll get last dibs on re-signing him. If no one else goes from at that point, he's back. Dibs. He's back. Yeah. If no one takes him, then he's back. Then he's back on the practice squad, and it's fine. If someone takes him, then good for him. Go play some football.
Yeah. So are we going to say LeMayer and Jarrell?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
And then I think, obviously, when we come back, someone like Greenfield might be.
Sunday.
Yeah. I think out of this group that's remaining, 2 key priority practice squad guys for me are Sundell and Greenfield.
Yeah, agreed. Right. Defense. Linebackers.
Okay, so we have to be specific on this, I think, because on this it doesn't specify edge versus inside.
No, it's just it's outside linebacker and middle linebacker are all together. So
what do we want to go with first?
Let's just nail down the inside first. I think Baker, Dodson, and Knight are locks.
Yep.
Okay.
I think we can agree on that. Dodson's top right.
Yep, I should have my glasses on here.
And Knight's right beside him. There you go.
Yeah. And then Chenna.
Possible pup, right? No?
Possible pup IR, yeah, for the first 4 weeks. But he's going to be on this roster, so we might as well just put him on. Boy Mafe, yep.
Derek
Hall, yes. Okay. Now and don't forget, one of our linebacker / edges will be Draymond Jones as well, who will be putting under the D-line section, so he'll count in this. Okay, so for me, the other inside, because we were going to carry 4, most likely is going to be, in my opinion, will be Drake Thomas, because of the fact he hadn't played any preseason until last night and came out second group of defense, and he had the green dot on and was working with Knight in there. I think that dude has a lot of upside that I don't think a lot of people know about. And the Raiders, and I have friends that are with the Raiders, they were extremely upset that he got put in a position where he could be poached from a practice squad situation, and that Seattle grabbed him. I like his versatility because of the fact he's so good in coverage.
I was going to say it's his sideline to sideline speed. Again, his tackling technique, I think, is fantastic. He drops people at the point of contact. There's not many people that will run through him and gain extra yards. His game intelligence, the fact that he got put in there as a green dot wearing middle linebacker says everything. But he can move around that whole linebacker group. We could put him outside linebacker and he'd still fare really well. I agree completely there.
And Jamie Sheriff.
Yeah, see, this is where, like, Jamie Sheriff, I am completely on board. Like I said, he was one of my positives. But I'm at that point where I think if we pick Drake Thomas and we move through the rest of the positions, if there is space, Sheriff may sneak on.
Well, I know we said we put Nwosu on because he's going to make the roster, but for the sake of next Tuesday's cut down from 90 to 53, if Chenna's put onto the pup, we could carry Jamie Sheriff on Tuesday and then kick the can down the road with decision making. I think that could be a potential situation that we see where Jamie Sheriff gets like a 3 to 4 week sort of exposure to the NFL.
Maybe. So I am not sold on Jamie Sheriff making this roster because of cut downs and guys from other teams that may become available that are better suited to fit in right now if Chenna goes on the pup. Because yes, Jamie Sheriff had a fantastic preseason, but Jamie Sheriff was also doing most of his damage versus third teamers and guys relatively to his same skill set.
Yep.
I don't know if Jamie Sheriff, for example, is beating I can't remember the off tackle for the Broncos right now. Garrett Bowles or whatever his name is, I think it is. I don't think Jamie Sheriff's beating him in a one-on-one in a game situation right now. I think what's more likely, and we pick Drake Thomas, he makes it on. I wonder if there's a higher chance because of Draymond's ability to play the edge if they don't take a Pat O'Connell as well, potentially. Because you don't know, we talk about Uchenna, we don't know what Jerome Baker's situation is. He has been battling. Yes, he came back to practice and went through walkthrough, but he has been battling a hamstring injury all along. He could potentially be a possibility for PUP as well, or IR for our first 4 weeks, as well as Chenna. So that's where I'm kind of.
I agree, and I think the Jamie Sheriff conversation is one of those where when we picked our starters and our backups, we then start looking at who will fill the roster. So much like we did on the HawksZone rundown when we did our initial one a few weeks ago. I personally, and I've said, I think Jamie Sheriff's been fantastic, but you do have to bear in mind that he's played against backups. I'd love to see his development. I'd love the fact if we could sneak him onto a practice squad.
I think he can
keep developing him.
Yeah,
I'd love that. Right, so we'll leave the linebackers like inside, outside. Let's go on to the cornerbacks, and I think we know it's going to be Witherspoon, Woolen. Obviously, this unfortunately hasn't been updated because the German Seahawkers are currently having a jolly up either in London watching the AEW or an early Oktoberfest somewhere. So we know 2 of them at least.
Trey Brown's the third.
Trey Brown's definitely in there. I think for the sake of development, I think you're probably going to look at DJ James.
Yep.
and
that's the Mike
Pritchett.
Jack move right there, is for both of them to make it.
And then, see, this is where I think Kobe Bryant, even though we're going to put him as a cornerback, he's, in my opinion, universal secondary. He's just going to be
backup free safety. He is the backup to Julian Love at free safety. And you can see, even when last night him and Kayvon Wallace were out there together, he's the free and kind of more commanding things, and Kayvon's more of your quote unquote strong safety in that situation. And on the play that we talked about earlier, the busted coverage in the second quarter where Jameis Winston hit the guy by himself, who's the guy that comes over and cleans up the whole mess? Kobe Bryant. And he punches the ball out. Luckily for the Browns, it went out of bounds. But that's something he brings to you. He is so good at that peanut Tillman. For people that don't know, Charles Tillman was a corner for the Bears. He was known for what they called the peanut punch. He would knock the ball out almost every time he went in for a tackle. And that's something Kobe Bryant's starting to become known for.
Well, that was his thing throughout his rookie season as well.
Yeah.
Because was it sort of, he had 3 or 4 peanut punches where he caused the fumbles because of his tackle technique and getting that arm through the ball carrying arm to punch it out. I think he's personally nailed on to be a backup safety. He can't be a cornerback. And Mitch and I have said this. I think I've beaten this drum to death now, where he cannot be an elite cornerback in the NFL, because if you put him up against someone like a Tyreek Hill, he'll get embarrassed. He's intelligent. He's strong. He's got great tackle technique. He's got great technique in coverage, but he is not quick enough. However, at safety, it gives him the time, the space to be able to make the plays that he needs to play or needs to do. So are we in agreement, Mitch? You've been very quiet here with Kobe.
I completely agree with everything you've both said. He does make this roster. We have to put him in the cornerback room because that's where he is on this app. And I also think D. Williams is the last one on there, but he'd be in the wide receiver part. Yeah, but I think that's seven players there, or 6 minus Kobe Bryant.
The other safeties. So I think, and when we've done our 53, I'm going to ask you about your opinions on captains. And I'd love to know our viewers and listeners' opinions on this as well, because I have strong opinions on it and where this franchise should go. But for this season, we'll discuss it after this. So obviously, Love signed a new contract. He's in.
Jenkins
is in.
Kayvon Wallace is in.
Yeah. See, I was half and half last week.
He's on the pop.
He's on the pop.
Marquise doesn't make it.
He won't make it. He'll be a practice squad veteran, I think. And I think Ty Okada, he makes the 53 initially if Jenkins is out any substantial amount of time.
Yeah.
But if he's not, I think they're going to try and sneak him through to the practice squad.
I think Ty Okada offers that safety cornerback flexibility, but I don't think he's good enough to warrant a straight up 53 spot.
If he's to play corner, it's nickel. It's not outside.
Oh yeah, it's got to be inside. He's again like Kobe. He's not fast enough to play outside.
And speaking to that point, that's why I don't know if he makes it, because of the fact Kayvon can play in the slot, Kobe can play in the slot. You've got Witherspoon already, and if Artie Burns is still on this team, but through a hey, we cut you, bring you back week 2, so we don't guarantee your salary, or we put you on PUP or whatever it is, or IR. He last night when Trey Brown was out was the first nickel, and Witherspoon was on the outside.
Okay, so I think we'll leave those 3 as they are. This is the beauty of this, or with the German Seahawkers website, where you've not got to pick them sort of. That's it, you picked and done.
Yeah.
You can pick and go back, which we found out on the HawksZone Rundown podcast where we first did it. And if anyone's listening to this and watching this and wants to do it, this is it's like fantasy football for who you want for the Seahawks. The D line, I think it's this is pretty much nailed on. It's Byron Murphy, Leo Williams,
Draymond Jones,
Cam Young, Jaron Reed.
Yep. John
Hankins,
Mike Morris,
Cam Young,
Pup.
Yeah.
Remember, this is where Mike McDonald, if you listen to his injury talk now compared to when he started, he made the comment that Cam Young was going to be back in about a week at the beginning of training camp. And it's never materialized. And since that point, when people ask him about injuries, he's much more reserved on timelines.
Yeah.
I think and I don't know what the Cameron Young injury is. I think said it was a knee or something like that. I wonder if he's not an IR candidate for the full year. And just will keep you, and basically he doesn't incur a year on his rookie deal because he would have been on IR the whole year, and he can come back fully healthy next year, and they don't go and try and get somebody in this waiver free agency period here to fill the nose tackle position. The one guy out of this group that's remaining that I think is an interesting one that I hope they get through the practice squad is
Levelston.
Yeah. He's actually done quite well, I think, and gives you a little bit of something. So he's a guy I could see making the practice squad.
Well, we have still got spaces, and obviously Miles Adams is perennial. This could be a season, but I think based on what we've got, if we got special teams, we know it's going to be Myers, Dixon. And,
hey, I'm just saying this. If there's a kicker that becomes available that's really good at making PATs consistently, we might have to reevaluate the Jason Myers side of things.
I paid him too much money. That's the problem. So special teams, you've got kicker Jason Myers, punter Mike Dixon, obviously some big bits and energy, and then our long snapper is Chris Stoll. So we have now got 4 spots left on our 53-man roster.
Is that 48 or 49 in the corner? I can't really see.
40. Let me squint. Is that? It's 49. So we've got 4 spots left.
4 spots. Okay, so go back to offense, I guess.
So if we're looking at, let's no point going back to QB because we know it's going to be, we'll carry 2 and pick up some wild card.
D. Williams.
Yeah,
is him.
Okay, so 3 more.
I think as well as Eskridge did in his 1 punt return and all the balls he was fed, I don't think he's going to make it. I think he's going to be a casualty. He's too much of a liability with injury, with mentality, his off-field history as well. I think, unfortunately, Aesop Winston, as much as he's done well in this offseason, I don't think he'll fare well against top-class NFL defenses.
I think he's a victim of the quality that we've already selected as well. Yeah. If we didn't pick up Laviska Shenault during this offseason, I think Aesop Winston Jr. may well make this roster, or Eskridge. And Derek Young having a fit and healthy preseason, which he hasn't had for 2 years, is a huge factor as well. Because we all knew Derek Young was so promising, he just couldn't stay fit. He's had a full preseason process with a whole new coaching staff with no bias, and they've been blown away. So Winston Jr. is a victim of circumstance and other people's talent rather than any wrongdoing.
I think as well with Young, he's got so much positional versatility where you look at, like, they can put him at H-back as a blocking fullback. You can put him in, he could be a big slot. He can play on the outside because he's got the speed, because he's DK Metcalf from Wish. I think that's true. Yeah. I just think that's a great pickup. I think Chenault's played out. I've also got to say the fact I love that the German Seahawks have included the DK Metcalf picture with Tyler Lockett peering right over his shoulder there.
Love that picture.
Right. Running backs then. Are we comfortable with our 3, or is Halani going to get in, or are we going to try and sneak him into the practice squad?
I think you sneak him into the practice squad.
I agree. I think tight ends, the 4 we've got there.
And we have Westover going to the practice squad.
Yeah.
I don't. It would take a coach that has watched enough UW football to know what Westover can bring to bring him into their squad. But I think we'll be able to stash him on the practice squad. I think our O-line is set. I think that's deep and versatile. When you look at the starting O-line, let's have this conversation. Starting O-line.
Okay, so I got a question about this, though. Just one question about the O-line. We put Abe Lucas on here. We know he's not going to be on the active 53 to start.
Mm-hmm.
Do we take Sundell because we're not sure about Connor Williams? That's the only question I have here, because Greenfield, I think you can get through potentially the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
But Sundell has played extremely well. And right now, looking at that, if you don't take him and Connor Williams still isn't ready, Sundell's put a lot of good tape out there as a center. And I think he could get plucked because of what we talked about with his tackle center versatility.
So are you saying that like Williams will start on IR, or
he may not start on IR? He may get carried on the 53, but just not be ready week 1.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think if we've got question marks over any 2 positional groups right now, it's D-line and O-line because of starting edge and tackle being question marks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with the extra 3 picks we've got, taking the most talented player we would be risking on the practice squad onto the 53 makes a whole bunch of sense. So Jalen Sundell makes the roster for me in the absence of Lucas. And I think on defense, in fact, if we go to linebackers,
we still need a 4th for the inside.
Yeah, I think we pick up an extra linebacker here, maybe. Or do you mean D-line?
Drake Thomas needs to go in there as well.
Yeah, Drake Thomas needs to be in.
Oh, yeah.
So that means
now you've got one spot.
And that one spot needs to be either a linebacker. And bear in mind, at linebacker, we've also played Mike Morris there a bunch of times over preseason.
Yes.
He's got a lot of positional versatility.
Skill positions, apart from outside linebacker, are sorted for me.
Yeah, they are for me as
safeties,
well.
corners, wide receivers, tight ends, all locked in. It is just a case of edge, D-line, and O-line. Do we have the depth to cover the question marks?
So here's what I would say about the linebacker situation. If you go back to it there, Josh.
Done.
I think we're having a conversation right now between O'Connell and Jamie Sheriff, because again, we talk about Chenna's injury. Baker has again not suited up for a single preseason game. He's still dealing with his hamstring. Yes, he ran around on walkthrough day, which isn't much. It's not a big deal. And he could be one plant away from popping his hamstring again. And then we're down to 3 inside linebackers. And that's asking Tyrese Knight. Yes, he's played well, but a lot, where we'd have Drake Thomas go in, but you're still down to 3 guys that play your inside, because none of those, Derek Hall, Boy Mafe, any of those guys can step into the inside and play as a linebacker. I think there's a case to be made that because
O'Connell would be the one.
It's Patrick O'Connell that we put on this because of how good he's in coverage. He's a good communicator, it seems like, as well. And you do have Mike Morris and Draymond Jones to potentially fill some outside reps in certain scheme looks. I just think it's a safer bet because of Baker's current injury history right now with us, that you need to carry an extra inside potentially.
I hate it, but I agree. And I think Jamie Sheriff come from a smaller school with his Southern Alabama.
Yep.
I think that there's more of a possibility of being able to stash him on a practice squad and watch him develop. So are we all in agreement? Everyone in favor, say aye.
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 Patrick O'Connell, you have made the 53. So
nice.
There we go. So in review, let's go through this. Gentlemen, I've got to say there was a lot less arguments than I thought there was going to be there. At quarterback, we've got Gino, obvious starter. Backup, Sam Howell. Running backs, we've taken 3 in Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet, and Kenny McIntosh. At wide receiver, And I think there's going to be a bone of contention, 1, 2, 3, as to who goes where. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jake Bobo, Laviska Shenault, Derek Young, and we've got D Williams in there, but he's a wide receiver, cornerback, kick returner. Tight end, we've taken 4, and we've gone Noah Fant, Pharaoh Brown, AJ Barner, and Brady Russell, the man with the outstanding fits. More dungarees, sir, please. Offensive line, we've taken 11. So we've got Bradford, Williams, Cross, Lucas, Tomlinson, Haynes, Oluwatimi, Fant, Lemaya, Gerald, and Sundell. That's personally, obviously, we're biased being a Seahawks podcast, quite a strong group there. Oh no, I think it's going to publish. This is the problem we're doing live. There we go. But luckily,
I think if you click on defense, it might come up there.
It's fine. I can read this. Just bear in mind, I'm going to have to squint. So we've got linebackers. We've got Baker. We've got Dotson, Knight. This including outside linebackers as well. So we've got Chenna, Marfay, Hall, Drake Thomas, and Patrick O'Connell. Cornerback, we've got Witherspoon, Woolen. We've got Trey Brown, DJ James, Nehemiah Pritchett, and we've got Kobe Bryant, who will be playing that safety role as well. And then in our pure safeties, we've got Julian Love, we've got Jenkins, and we've got Wallace. And then D-line, Murphy, Williams, Jones, who will play that inside-outside role, Jaron Reed, got Hankins, and Mike Morris, who again will be playing D-line, inside-outside. And special teams, you have got Jason Myers, Big Dixon Energy, Mike Dixon, and you've got Chris Stoll as our long snapper. Gentlemen, I have to say, I think that is a fantastic 53 there.
There's one thing I'm going to mention, and I know I should have brought it up at the time.
Always throw a spanner in the works. Why is it always you, Mitch? Come on.
Well, yeah, sorry. We didn't mention Barrett, who obviously we traded. I mean, we didn't trade for him. He was a sort of make weight in the which trade was it? Mike Jack trade. Yeah, Mike Jack trade. Who's obviously a linebacker known to Mike Mack, who featured at the end of the game yesterday. Is there any way he shades O'Connell?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. I think he takes, because he wasn't on that, I would have taken Barrett over O'Connell and pushed O'Connell through the practice squad. That's what would have actually potentially been the proper.
That one's a coin flip for me.
We'll pop this link out to all of our followers on X and Insta and everything, and see what they come up with. And hopefully, the guys from German Seahawkers will update this before roster cut day, and we can put together the general consensus. But I'm personally really happy with that. My one last question: if you were going to pick a captain for offense, defense, and special teams, who would you go with? Bryce, you first.
Offense is Gino. Mm-hmm. And I think that's not really up for debate. I would say defensively, I think it could be Leonard Williams.
Mm-hmm.
And then special teams, I think will be Michael Dixon personally, but that leaves, I think you're allowed 2 more. I think you're allowed to have 5 usually.
Yeah.
So on offense, I think it's going to be Tyler Lockett again. They're not going to take it from him.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you got Gino and Tyler on offense. Defensively, I know, and I can tell by Mitch's Josh's kind of demeanor right now that he thinks it should go to Witherspoon as the other one.
No, I want it to, but as a player coach, as a team coach, I don't think it will.
No,
because I think there's a better option.
I think it's going to be Love and Williams will be the two that wear
virtual
it on defense.
High five to Bosch. Yep.
And I think, it'll be Michael Dixon as your special teams guy. I think he's more. The reason why I pick him over Myers is he's more consistent at what he does in his job. And I think that's just a bigger part of it for special teams. And he's been very, very good, especially that punt group as a whole. So yeah, I think that's going to be your group. And if they're allowed another, because I think Ballore wore it for last year as well. They had 2 for special teams. As crazy as this sounds, I think the other guy for special teams that could wear it, because I think Jay Harbaugh really, really loves him, is Kayvon Wallace. Because Kayvon Wallace is the one that came up to him and said, hey, why don't you have me out here as your personal protector up back? Like, that's a mistake. And ever since he's put him out there, like last night, flew down the field and made a great open field tackle. I think Kayvon Wallace with Mike Dixon will be your other special teams captain. So that's your 6 from my side.
I agree.
Mitch looks excited.
Yeah, no, I was. If you didn't mention Kayvon Wallace and that part of episode 2 of The Sound where Kayvon Wallace had basically said, "You're crazy to not have me out there," and just showed this kind of authority and desire to just make an impact wherever he can. I think that energy for Jay Harbaugh, like, bottle that up and try and get it through all the way through special teams. So agree. The one thing I will say, the coaching staff have been raving about Charles Cross's emerging leadership qualities. So an outside dark horse there for an offensive captain on Charles Cross.
The only thing in that situation, so I agree, but who are you taking it away from between Gino and Tyler?
Yeah, that's toughy because you always want your QB to have that kind of badge of.
And they talked about his leadership,
badge of honor, isn't it? Yeah. It commands respect. I mean, for me, it's I agree 100% with Bryce. Everyone is mentioned there. Veterans in the team, established players. Love has been a captain in New York and come to Seattle and has garnered that respect. I would love to see a new coaching staff bring in a new ethos when it comes to captaincy of like hard, aggressive players. Someone like DK, it may calm him down. Witherspoon, I would love to see him as a team captain, but I don't think he's ready now. I think in a season or 2, and I was saying this with Jonas and Pascal from the German Seahawkers last night, we're going to re-sign him regardless. He's going to be hopefully one of those players that we just pump money into. I'd love to see him as a captain at some point. I think special teams, agree completely. And weirdly enough, the other week, Mitch, you and I said Kayvon Wallace may be on the bubble because he wasn't playing a lot, wasn't making a massive impact. But when you see what he's doing on the sideline and when he does get on the field, the production he gives, that may be a really good shout. So I'm you know what, I'm on board with everything you've said.
So I've got one caveat here, and this is because of what you said, Josh, just now, and it's about Tyler Lockett being a captain. Tyler is a lot from that Pete regime, but the one thing Tyler hasn't done a lot of in this preseason and training camp is participate. He's been dealing with his injuries and so on. And I get that, and I 100% understand that. But if you're trying to get maybe a new message in and get some buy-in because of Mike McDonald's new voice, and you're trying to advocate that you want this player and he's important, I think DK could be the other captain for the calm down factor, but also because of that energy he does bring to the team with his physicality, how he does. I could see that being maybe the one pivot, because I don't think Tyler would take it too personally if it wasn't given to him, because every indication I've had through this entire training camp is this is Tyler's last year in Seattle. He's not going to be here next year. Retirement's
coming, I think. I don't think he'll leave. I think
he'll retire and he'll go. And I think personally,
well, he's the Seahawks official real estate agent. So anyone that comes in goes straight to his company.
Correct.
He's doing absolutely fine. I think he's settled in Seattle. From my personal point of view, so my coaching point of view, and obviously we'll do this in a future pod as well, Bryce, is when I'm looking at a captain, I want a captain that will encapsulate what I want to bring or what I want my team to bring to the playing field. I think with what Mike Mack wants, he wants that aggressive physical style that is in your face, that is always on the go. I think DK as a offensive captain is right up there. He's got to be. And then that's why I said Witherspoon as well, because I think a couple of more years in the league where he's got more experience and he's actually recognized in the NFL top 100, more than 50. He will be that guy who everyone goes as a cornerback, nickel or outside, don't mess with him. He commands this defense. I think that's where it's going. I think that's where I really want. I want to see this team be aggressive. I want aggressive leaders. I just want guys that people don't want to mess with. And I think they're two of the guys on either side of the ball that you don't want to mess with.
Yeah, they're tone setters.
Yeah.
And they're both mouthpieces, whether they're the captain or not. They're both going to be high energy, verbal, tone setters, leading by example, regardless of whether they're team captains or not. So you don't necessarily have to pick them as a team captain, but they are definitely sort of vice captain, waiting in the wings, next man up roles, I think, for those two.
This is going to be a very interesting conversation for people in our Discord. If you've not joined, get in there. It's our pinned post on X. People that want to comment on this video. That the captaincy is always one of those where it depends on your mindset. And as a coach, who knows? But with that said, I will post this as well on our socials. Bryce, obviously, as the co-host of the HawksZone Rundown, do you want to tell all of our viewers and listeners where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me and my co-host Ryan on our YouTube channel, HawksZone Rundown. We're both on Twitter. Ryan's under, I believe it's RMac91 is under his, and then mine as well is just at Bryce Coutts. We're constantly posting, retweeting on there, different stuff with the Hawks. We've got our own recap live show coming up in about 35 minutes here on our YouTube channel. So I've been very busy today. So we've got that's coming up today. We'll have Dan Viens from Seahawks Forever on it. We'll have Keith and Bill from the Seahawks Playbook Podcast. We're going to do a massive recap of the preseason, season outlook, projection, win totals, and then our own roster projection kind of thing. So
expect my comments on that then.
Oh,
I'm going nowhere.
Just bring it on, Josh. We'll be ready for it. So, so that's basically what we got coming up, and then we'll have an exciting announcement actually on that show that I can't leak here. But if you tune in there, you'll be able to hear what it is.
We'll be there. I just want to say, Bryce, thank you so much. We love having you on this pod. Unfortunately, Ryan's not here to counteract yours and Mitch's logic that always undermines everything I say or do. But we have been the 12 Talk podcast with Bryce from the HawksZone Rundown. Bryce will be back on, hopefully with Ryan at some point. Who knows? I'm just going to do the emoji shrug thing. During the season, we will recap a game. Please make sure you like, share this, join our Discord, join everything we do and everything that HawksZone Rundown do, because these guys absolutely smash it. We absolutely love working with those guys. If you want to get in touch with us, if you want to appear on the pod, we have got very limited. Mitch, can you very limited spots now for our game rundowns, haven't we?
Yeah, first half of the season we're pretty much chocker at this point. But later in the season, sort of post bye week, we've got some games available. We haven't actually booked in any post game breakdown with Bryce or Ryan, so maybe one of those later in the season, one of the Arizona games, or maybe the last game of the season would be a really good one. But
nice.
Yeah, we've still got some spots. So if you're interested in coming on, talking Hawks with us, absolutely, we'd love to have you. So just reach out and let us know in the comments, or on the email that's in the description box below on YouTube.
Perfect. So We have a 12 podcast. We have a podcast, 512, 412, 612. We want you to appear, get in touch. If you've not got in touch, you know.
Your mic went funny when you put the music on, so you sounded like you were talking underwater, which is incredible. What a talent.
Didn't make it sound creepier, I'm not sure. Right. But thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in live. Please, if you are live on here, go and check out Bryce on the HawksZone Rundown with it's a round table, isn't it? So there's you, Dan Viens, who else say you've got?
Keith and Bill from the Seahawks Playbook podcast.
Awesome.
Nice.
I'll be there in the comments. I'll be watching this. From me, from Bryce, from Mitch, I'm just going to say a massive go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.